Welcome to Vital MTB's 2024 SL e-bike test sessions. In this video, we will discuss the performance of Ari Bikes' Nebo Peak. To read the full review, head to vitalmtb.com.
Yeah, over this after? Yeah. Oh, we're going to do a third outing? Okay.
The Nebo Peak is the first new model from Ari Bikes, the brand formerly known as Fezzari, and it is the lightest e-bike the Utah-based company has ever made. With promising features and an attractive frame design, the Nebo Peak looks to signify the brand's refined new image. Prioritizing the lightweight end of the SL category, the Nebo Peak was the second lightest bike in our test and the lightest Fazua-powered bike in the group, coming in at 42.8 pounds. Fazua's Ride60 system offers one of the best power-to-weight ratios, delivering 60 Nm of torque and 450 watts of peak power at just 4.3 pounds. The Nebo Peak's manageable weight made for a natural feeling on the trail and helped optimize battery life with enough assistance to take the edge off even the steepest climbs. The Ride60 system has 3 assist levels, Breeze, River, and Rocket, which are selected via a handlebar-mounted ring controller. Corresponding color-coded lights on the top tube mounted display indicate the current mode and display battery life. For more in-depth information, the Ride Control app displays battery life as a percentage, allows personalization of each assist mode, and enables riders to create riding profiles to optimize power delivery for their needs. Geometry numbers have been kept within reason, but should pair well with a wide variety of riders and terrain types. Still, the numbers reflect some great gravity-focused attributes and appropriately match the 140 mm of rear-wheel travel and 150 mm fork. Chainstay lengths measure 434.6 mm across all sizes. The head tube angle sits at 65 degrees, and the C-tube angle is at 77 degrees. A geometry flip chip located in the chainstay pivot enables mixed or full 29-inch wheels. Flipping from the short setting into the long setting extends chainstay length by 5 mm and reduces the head tube and seat tube angles by half a degree. Ari offers the Nebo Peak in 4 build kits ranging from $6,200 to $10,000. A frame-only kit is available for $5,000 with the option to add a RockShox Lyric Ultimate fork for an additional $800. All build kits feature the same full carbon frame with thoughtfully placed molded frame protection and fully guided internal cable routing. We tested the $8,000 Pro Level build kit, making the Nebo Peak the cheapest bike in the test. Build highlights include RockShox Ultimate Suspension, SRAM EXO Transmission Drivetrain, the all-new SRAM Maven Ultimate Brakes, and DT Swiss XM 1700 wheels, a build that leaves little to be desired. Prices are subject to change as usual, and Ari currently has a few models on sale, so hit their website for the most accurate pricing. The Nebo Peak just squeaked its way into our test sessions after launching at the beginning of March. One of the newest additions to the SL category, its clean colorway and banging component spec had us eager to see how it would perform on trail. Alrighty, we are getting closer to approaching the lightest bike of this test. We got the second lightest bike, Ari's very newly released Nebo Peak, and another Fazua bike, another bike with 140 mils of rear travel, 150 up front, and this was a very interesting bike. It has everything about how it looks is very appealing to me. Like, it's got the lightweight package kind of on lock, you know, like with Fazua's system applied to this kind of travel bike and their approach with it. I was really excited to ride it. You know, we're 3 for 3 now with Fazua's systems, kind of gone over it a few different times, but you know, again, it's a great package for OEMs to pick from. Ring controller sort of has its limitations, but the interface is great, the feet of power is great, and I thought it fit this bike super well.
Yeah, I think for motor performance, it's kind of like we had touched on. It's kind of like the best of both worlds, in my opinion. It's 430 watt-hour battery with 60 Newton meters of torque, and just like the other bikes, 2 bars of battery gone after a couple hours of riding with quite a bit of climbing. And yeah, I think my favorite system of the ones we tested. And on this bike, it seems like it's been around long enough. They figured out a way to implement it like in a really tidy, kind of clean way that didn't rattle, dead silent. Like I didn't get any weird noises out of the bike. One of the quieter motors, and just, yeah, still needing a bit of refinement. But like I said, it's been out for a bit, and I think Ari did a great job of kind of figuring out the best way to implement it into a bike that made sense, and they came out with something really cool.
Yeah. Like for their first step into this lightweight space, it's a great option. And one like little thing I liked is how the charging port is really tucked away, kind of like by that lower link. It just, I guess on one hand, it maybe is a little bit harder to access in some regards, but aesthetically, it just tucks away nicely, because when you glance at this bike, kind of like the Fuel EXE, you're not really sure if it is an e-bike. You know, everything size-wise of the tubes and whatnot match really well.
Yeah, not much more to say about the motor over here.
I'll just say, like, from the looks again, like the Fuel EXE was probably the bike I was most excited to ride for that reason until I saw this bike, and I was like, wow, that's the same thing. Hardly looks like an e-bike. Maybe it has down tube storage or something. That's kind of become normal for tubes to be that size. They're not huge and really well tucked away.
Totally. And like props to Ari for that, because usually when I look at a bike that is this cleanly laid out and it seems thought through on just so many different little things, you think about bigger brands. You think of Specialized, Trek, Santa Cruz, those sort of brands. So it is really cool with their whole rebranding to see a bike that they kind of launched the rebranding with, that I think we all saw it and we're like, oh, that thing looks pretty sick.
Huge step in the right direction.
Yeah. Totally. All right, moving on to that. This bike's probably up there for the best value. It is the cheapest. You get banging parts with it and really nice parts in all the right places. The downside that with any direct-to-consumer bike is you're interacting with the brand for assistance, which I think nowadays is maybe less of a negative, because a brand like Ari has a lot of systems in place to help you if you need
they've been around
assistance.
for like 20 years or so.
Yeah, and they've been leaning into that sales program or layout, whatever you want to call it, for like a long time. So
well versed in that space.
yeah, I mean,
They're
it's
figuring
sick.
it out for sure.
Yeah, like I don't look at this bike and think that it needs anything else to add to it, and everything, all the parts on it, make it a very like capable trail SLE bike.
Another safe investment, so to speak. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, they took, I mean, you know, to be fair, they're not reinventing the wheel here. They took like a very established frame design, established suspension design. They kind of just listened to what's working around and just like implemented all those things. So that, you know, like, yeah, looking at this, like nothing stands out to me other than the fact that, like you said, you almost can't tell it's an e-bike. The geo numbers of the frame were maybe a bit more upright to me than some of the other bikes, or at least some of the bike, like
Less progressive.
yeah,
More
and
like
it's
typical of a bike of this travel.
absolutely. Yeah, just very like middle of the road in a good way, like if that makes sense, you
It's
know.
like highly adaptable to a lot of uses and terrain types.
Absolutely. Like, you know, we kind of pigeonholed the Trek into a more trail bike zone, and then we've pigeonholed like or not pigeonholed, but we've categorized the Transition as like a more free ride, aggressive bike, and this feels like kind of in the middle of those, right? Like it could go do either or. Like it's obviously light, and it's obviously capable, but yeah, it just seems like well-rounded, but like to me not super exciting in any way, but that's like not a bad thing,
Yeah,
right?
it achieves the goal of like what a trail bike is, and it's
for sure.
great to see that it's as light as it is for an SL e-bike.
Yeah, like I think if we are calling, you know, the Fuel EXE more trail bikey, I do put this more similar to that. But I got on this bike and felt like I could push it harder than I could the Fuel. It gave me
tall stack.
A lot of it
Yeah.
is just kind of comes down to component and
Weight
in
distribution
particular,
and stuff,
like in particular, just cockpit like spec,
Yeah.
and but like all that to be said that for a 140, 150 bike, I wouldn't limit its abilities in my mind to what you would typically expect a bike of that travel amount to be capable of. Like I thought it was, because it's so light, it's a very easy bike to influence as you ride down the trail. And when you want the bike to be more calm and stable, it could provide that also. Maybe not at the degree of some of the more capable bikes in this test, but at a level that I was like, this bike's sick. Like I would ride it on a lot of stuff.
I think it's capable in more directions. Like when you say more capable, it's almost like, the capability towards like the aggressive end. And like Lear said, this is very in the middle and touches on
Spectrum is wide.
it touches on like more ends of the spectrum, where in my experience on the super rough trail, like pushing into that aggressive riding category, it didn't really get away from me, but it kind of made it known, like, the angles are steeper. You kind of don't have as much room for error, but it was very easy to just kind of calm down and let it do its thing. And I thought it felt awesome on the rough trail. Like, because then those little kind of intricacies on the trail are then opened up more than on an aggressive bike that would kind of just mow over them. Particularly the little gaps between railroad ties and such, like, were super easily attainable with this.
And two, just, because travel amount obviously isn't everything, and even just like head tube angles and everything, like the way I sat on the bike was sick. It was like so sat in the bike, a little bit more like pushed back, like in that position that if something crazy happens, you're probably gonna be able to manage whatever is going on. I wouldn't put it still was below like the Heckler SL and like the Cannondale to me, like those bikes, and really even the Levo SL, like those bikes were a little notch above. But I think that and this bike, similar to the Fuel EXE, starts to have broader abilities more in like the versatility side versus just descending,
Totally.
Yeah, and it was difficult because I rode this bike first, and I found it kind of hard to top. Like I rode the Cannondale right after it, which is pretty far in terms of geo. It's a mullet. I tend to get along with full 29 more, and it really wasn't until the Heckler SL where I felt like something had topped it in my mind. As a well-rounded bike, like I think the Heckler is still a very well-rounded bike that lets you go slightly more aggressive. But I felt, like you said, body position, weight distribution on the bike was incredible, and it kind of sat at the top for a while until I got to the Heckler SL and eventually the Levo SL.
Like I feel like we were talking at one point where we all are deciding between the Santa Cruz Heckler and the Specialized Levo SL is like which one we like most, and then this is kind of like the Nebo Peak is
Just
right below
hovering,
that.
yeah.
Like it's in the same group.
You can,
but,
and then you throw in a price like $7,000, and you're like,
reality sets
or
in.
$8,000.
That's an entry level carbon.
Right, and you're like, oh, okay,
Ultimate
maybe
everything on it, basically.
And we're talking about like some of these bikes being like good for entry level people or good for expert level people, and it's like that. This bike just fits such a wide spectrum. If you're like, I mean, it's going to be hard to not be happy with it. I think at the price you pay, I think. Like it starts to scare me because it's almost like too good to be true in the sense that like, how did they save 2 pounds over a Heckler?
Make it cheaper.
And if it is
sense.
if it is this confidence inspiring, like, am I going to
what's
push
the structural integrity?
am I going to
at that point?
push this frame beyond maybe what it's designed for because the geo is so.
But to be fair, from like us riding all the bikes back to back, I never got on this and had any of those thoughts. I never was like, ooh, it's noodly or it's too flexy.
No, not at all.
great.
Not at all.
Yeah,
Totally.
But I totally agree. You look at how all the weights land, and
Is there helium in the down too? What's going on?
it's a weird magic trick you pulled here, Ari. No, I think that's great. It is a very broad bike in both user and intended use and how you could use the bike.